Hello, it is the second look. For those of you who watch post-match pints, yes, I'd had a pint. I am joined by Paul Cope and Mo Stewart to take a sober look back on Liverpool's defeat 3-0 by Barcelona last night. Let's start off with the obvious. It is the free kick. It is Mo. It's frankly astonishing. He's 35 yards out. He's got no right to do what he does. And, you know, there's no one to blame. No one's at fault. You can't say, was the wall in the wrong place. It's such a display of this is exactly who I am, and it's something like his 8th or 9th direct free kick goal this season. Yeah, and I thought we'd actually done really well to stop him getting one up to that point. And I didn't realise that they hadn't had one until then. I was just like, oh, wow, they've not had a free kick. Oh. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you could have put a little light on the point of the goal that it was going to go in beforehand, and Alisson still wouldn't have got there. No. Because it was literally the perfect place to place one. And yeah, it was almost like you knew so he was going to do something. I was kind of hoping the second goal was the something, but no, apparently that wasn't good enough for him. It wasn't good enough for him. I think we've said on the shows in the build-up, I think everyone said he is the greatest person ever to play the game. And it's the fact that he steps up in moments like that to do such brilliance, but it's also the fact that the brilliance has become unbelievably routine with him, Paul. And all the way through the game, he felt dangerous. I thought Liverpool played him really, really well. There's a couple of excellent tackles on him, excellent challenges on him, but you can't keep that level of talent out of the game. He doesn't perform every match, but it feels like it is almost every match. Yeah, we were debating him in the pub afterwards, actually, and it's funny to hear you say about the free kick and the wall and stuff, because my view straight after watching replays and Paul Johnson and Ben Johnson Adam in the pub with us, we were saying put one more man in the wall on the end next to Gomez. Like for me, I don't understand why. Where's the benefit of not? That we know what he can do, we know what he's capable of. Even if he misses him out, even if it goes over his head, whatever, don't take the chance. And maybe that's harsh, and maybe that just it doesn't matter, and maybe you just cling into whatever you can. And because I was saying after the game, when the narrative was saying it's been the Messi show, I was saying, has it really though? Like first half, if I'm looking at that game and not knowing who everyone is, I said the same thing about Van Dijk and Matip. I love doing this sometimes. You say, well, forget you know who anyone is. Who do you think's the £75 million centre back? You'd say it was Joel Matip last night. He was phenomenal. Really and was. First half, if you're looking at going, who's the best player on the planet? The number of times Mo Salah picks up the ball and runs at them, and you can see them going, wow, he's good, isn't he? He's good at footy. But then the two Jonos convinced me actually when we start talking about it. It's like, it's not just like the incredible stuff in front of goal. It's every time he gets the ball and he's going past 3 or 4 of your men. He did something, which I haven't seen back yet, but he was in like their right back position. And Robertson closed him down, so he just dinked it over him. Yeah. And it's just those moments where you can sort of see our players look at each other and go, oh. Like I think there was at least 3 nutmegs as well. Press them. You press him. Yeah, there was at least 3 nutmegs that I counted across the 90 minutes. And it was interesting because you're right, up until that part I thought, yeah, we're doing really well, we've clearly got a game plan, we're trying to kind of like shepherd him into certain situations where we can overload him and eventually get the ball off him. And that worked for a great amount of time, but he can work 85 times and then the 86th time, there he is. And I think we're probably going to talk about Keita's injury later on in the show, but for me, the biggest difference that made was not having fresh legs to put on at that point. So this is what I want to come on to, and I'm really pleased you've gone in that direction, so we will just do it now, because I think that there's a lot of frustration from me and from people around me, make a sub. But you forget, so it's as simple as, this is on 6, because I think we go flat 60 to 70. Yeah. I think we come out 45 to 60. I think we feel like we're in charge, and we are broadly in charge 60 to 70, but we stop creating anything. There's a couple of hopeful crosses put in by Mane and Henderson around the 70-minute mark. We're giving the ball away a little cheaply because we're trying to force it. Yeah. That's gone. But that's the time you make your first sub. He can't make his first sub because he's made the first half. So it's a double-edged sword. He's lost Keita, who was playing well and has played well recently, Mo. Exactly. And then this happens, and I think that it does have a bigger knock-on effect than maybe you give it credit for. Yeah, because when I first saw Milner starting, my assumption was that him and Henderson were going to take that position over the course of the 90 minutes, and at some point they would have to swap, because we all remember when Henderson's came on recently, the energy that he injects, as well as the kind of that propulsion forward, would have really worked on both counts. And Henderson was able to do some of that in the game, but obviously by that point he's been in the game long, so he's not going to be able to have that injection of energy. And yes, you can still bring on someone like Origi to stretch him up top, but it's not really having the same influence in the same position. And essentially the idea of allowing Messi to pick up the ball
10 to 15 yards in front of our back four with the goal in front of him. That was kind of what we did really well at stopping. And once we couldn't stop that anymore, that's when the game turned.
I think subs are really interesting in that you've good subs, bad subs. We talk about it a lot, but a lot of the time you're subbing just to change something, or you're subbing to offer something a little bit different, to pose a different question, or to set a tempo or set an idea. And I think he's unable to do that between 60 and 70, or he feels like he is, Paul, because he doesn't want to throw his 70 to 80 sub away, and then his I need one in my back pocket in case someone gets injured sub. And I think that losing that first half, having to make that change then, I agree with Mo. I think you would have seen Henderson as first sub. It would have been around the 55, 60 minute mark, and it would have been to say, right, this is how we change this now, and he was unable to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of debate about that watching it, and I think there's loads in it because there's a big Firmino question mark, and it's the whole thing. If he's not fit enough, why is he on the bench? How fit is he? But I'm looking at that, and even the fact that he waited so long, I think Firmino is a natural sub to bring on at some point, and I think he's looking at him thinking he's not fit, so he's basically there as a break glass option, and I don't want to bring him on. And you see that in the way he brings him on. It's like, well, I've got to break glass now. I think if it stays 2-0. You might not see Firmino in that game because he just thinks, well, I'm all right with that, broadly speaking.
I think it's said if it stays 1-0. I think if it stays 1-0, I don't think Firmino gets on the pitch.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the Keita thing, we were saying watching it, credit to Keita, 2-3 weeks ago, him going off in the first half, you wouldn't be going, oh, that's a blow. So it shows how much he's developed in the past few weeks. But it changed everything in the game because Milner was doing a really good job as an auxiliary right back, basically, and doubling up down that side. And as soon as Keita went down, the first thing I thought was, well, Henderson's the sub, and Henderson can't play left, or he probably won't play him left. So all of a sudden, you're changing quite a few things here. And you saw straight away, I thought Henderson was really good, but he wasn't as deep as Milner. He actually had more of an impact going forward, but straight away, we've got an issue down that side then. And all of these things factor into it, and this is the thing. This is where playing fantasy football is easy compared to being Jurgen Klopp, being on the bench going, all right, what do I actually do in real life when these lads are playing?
There's something in he picks Gomez over Alexander-Arnold, which suggests that was already in his mind. What happens down the left-hand side? I think there is an element of he did have Milner over there, and I agree with Paul that Henderson plays really well, but Gomez in the end. Managers must have an idea of how they think games are going to go, and then sometimes they go a little bit differently. Yeah. And I wonder if by the time it gets to sort of 60, he's thinking, I mean, he probably isn't because of the character he is, but it would be perfectly valid to think, we should start a Trent now.
I really wonder whether or not he had Gomez there to combat Dembele, thinking Dembele was going to start over Coutinho, because if you think about Coutinho, yes, he's got skills and stuff. He's not really going to test you on the outside in the same ways that Dembele was, or even in behind.
Or explode past you.
No, so it's a different kind of problem. And I was fearful of the idea of Gomez starting his first game there, because, I mean, I would have thought, in my mind, if you're really thinking about starting him, when we're 4-0 up with 25 to go against Huddersfield, give him half an hour, let him get his legs under him a bit. And there has been a lot of talk also about Gomez and his position at right back and the ball over the top behind him, which he still continues to have issues with. So there's all those things you've got to bring into mind. But again, I think the whole idea of the subs and what he wanted to do and how to change it was really what hamstrung him, because I could see that Trent and what he gives us, yes, we all know the potential issues he has in situations, but what he can give is so much more important, I think, at that point in the game, especially when you're down and you're thinking, okay, a goal for us changes lots.
And I think that there's an argument there again. I do wonder if he'd have felt he had 3 subs, and maybe he should just make them anyway. Maybe he should just take the chance, Paul. But I think he is thinking, well, he's not just thinking 90 minutes, he's thinking 180. But even there, you thought on 60, give Trent half an hour. Give Trent half an hour where Gomez currently keeps getting on the ball this high up the pitch. He will give you more in those areas. But again, it's all perfectly reasonable. And the other thing to point out is I don't think there's a Liverpool player that has a bad game. That's the other thing to say as well. From the manager's point of view, he's able to look at process, look at performance, and all he's seeing, I think, is 7s minimum. He's seeing 7s out of 10 everywhere. And it's difficult, isn't it? It's easy for us to say in hindsight, he could have made this sub, that sub. If you're him, you're watching the game and you're seeing people do reasonably well, and you've got your substitute options limited.
Yeah, it's such a difficult game to talk about and look back on. Gibbo said this in the pink afterwards. We're not used to watching this side get beat at all. So to see it get beaten 3-0 when I think we were fairly dominant, bear in mind we're going away to the new camp, all the way through the game I'm thinking, we're good here, you know. These are worried about us. They're finding this difficult. And
they played part of it like the away side in front of 100,000 Catalans.
Absolutely, it's just ceding possession to us, and I mean that speaks volumes about us. But all it showed is Adam said this in the pub about being better in both boxes, and the reality is we talk about it with Sean Rodgers a lot on the review shows and different things, and that's even at elite level it comes down to that. And usually we're better in both boxes than our opponent, and last night we just weren't. So you can analyse the Gomez and the Trent thing all you like, but Mane takes his chance from Henderson's pass. Salah's one at the end, make it 3-1, it completely changes the game. And the other thing I will say on the team selection is, the first thing I thought when I saw the team was, this is a manager who still thinks he can win the league, by the way. This is not just 180 minutes against Barcelona. This is, I'm going away to Newcastle on Saturday night, and I've got Trent, Bobby and Jordan to bring back into this side, and that'll help me beat a tough Newcastle team.
No, I think that's a very fair point as well, because he's always kind of preached that method, it's just the next game, it's just the next game, it's just the next game. But now we're getting to so few, it's easy to think, well, obviously, you're going to be deciding this way or that way. But yeah, I like the thought of that. I mean, when it comes to how you select whom and when and where, I think a lot of that, like you say, when you looked at the team sheet, I was like, yeah, I'm happy with that. I can see where that would all work and why it would all work. And again, when it comes down to it and it's not working, or maybe it is working, that was the thing that really confused me, was that there was a point where I was like, okay, they look like they're getting tired, so we just need to keep doing what we're doing, and it's coming. And like you say, we've seen that in lots of games recently where we've outlasted people. We've just like got to that point where it's like, okay, you can't do that anymore, now we're going to come through. And then I realised that they've been doing it to us the whole time.
It was both sides doing it to each other.
And when they came to do their period, they just did it.
They did just do it. We'll talk about the fortune of that second goal. I mean, it comes off his knee, hits the top of the bar, and then falls to the best footballer ever to play the game from 4 yards out with an open goal. That's mad, and I'd rather it didn't happen. We'll talk about that in a minute or two. We will talk about Wijnaldum playing as the false nine and what was going through Klopp's mind with that decision. All of that is to come. But first, you've got to look at some fella move some counters around. Liverpool beaten 3-0 by Barcelona. Thank you very much for that, Neil, in the intro. There is something going on with this game where what fascinated me in the average positions in terms of involvement was how deep and how crowded Barcelona's middle of the park transpired to be. So here you've got Busquets, you've got Rakitic, you've got Vidal, maybe the other way around those two. There's Coutinho doing a lot of his work narrow and inside, and here's Messi. I mean, Messi's difficult to get an average position for, he flits around so much, but he was coming in and being part of this midfield of action. Liverpool actually went with something that we thought before a ball was kicked would look like a 4, maybe with Wijnaldum at the tip of the diamond. It's not quite clear yet whether or not we can argue he was playing as a false 9 or at the tip of the diamond, and it's worth remembering that the nomenclature never quite works, it never quite comes through for you in this regard. But he was there and he was doing his business in this area through the game. Salah and Mane were pushed very high up. Liverpool's full-backs were higher than Barcelona's. Every single marker that you can see in terms of those average positions suggests that Barcelona were reactive, were reflexive towards Liverpool, that Liverpool were more on the front foot. That's the way in which the game was. Liverpool, Barcelona are the ones with the deeper midfield, with the more packed midfield. Liverpool, tight midfield. I mean, this three really was close together. That was the way in which it went about its business and the way in which it tried to crowd Liverpool out. Fact of the matter, though, is that it's about sticking the ball in the back of the net, and Messi does that on 2 occasions, one spectacularly, one fortuitously, but then, you know, fortune is part of football, and how you react to it is a massive part of that as well. Liverpool looked to exploit this space, as you'd expect. Salah, they felt as though he could really get at Longley, he got booked, and he could really get at Alba on that side. Alba, again, he's integral for the opening goal. Suggests that he's doing his work in bursts, was on average deeper than Liverpool's left back and right back. Liverpool's right back being Joe Gomez, a converted centre half there as well. All in, it's a frustrating one for the Reds. They'll feel as though, as I say, that a lot of the markers, the usual markers around the game, suggest that they should be more in control, and it include the Suarez thing in there as well, where it ricochets back off the bar to Messi. As I said before, that could just have gone over. But Liverpool found themselves in a situation where they weren't great between 60 and 70. Whilst they felt like they were in control, they weren't pressing home their advantage. They weren't scaring Barcelona for the first time, I think, in that period of time. They weren't able to freshen it. And then it goes against them between 70 and 80. Liverpool are going to have to find a way through this Barcelona side when they come to Anfield. Liverpool have just got to try and win the game. That was good, wasn't it? Back with Paul and Mo here to talk about, we'll start with the Wijnaldum decision. I think it's fascinating. I think it was, again, you're doing 60 minutes of running for me here, softening them up, and then we go from there. I think that was what was in the manager's mindset. And to be fair to Wijnaldum, I think he gets the movement almost right. I think there's a couple of issues around getting the ball under control, the right pass at the right time, all of that sort of stuff. I think that's, if anything, he found interestingly, almost like the technical aspect of playing the position tougher than the physical / sort of mental aspects.
Yeah, and when you think about how he's almost had to reset his mindset over the last 18 months from doing more of that kind of stuff, it must have felt kind of strange.
Yeah.
To like all the things that he's been fighting during matches to now go, oh, well, I'm off the leash now. But obviously he still had a very tight, specific game plan. And if you're Klopp and you're thinking, I'm not going to get that function out of Bobby Firmino, and the idea of Bobby occupying Busquets being potentially so vital to our plan. I mean, all the time I've been thinking about this game before Bobby's injury. That's what I was hanging my hat on, is the fact that he's really good at that.
Yeah.
And that can have a big influence. So the best way of potentially replicating that from within the squad probably was Wijnaldum. But you're right, it's just, he just wasn't able to do it. And in the moments of link in and around the penalty area, which to be honest, he's normally quite good at technically, there were a couple of times where the break of the ball went a bit far from him and it was just missing the point.
There's one in the second half where Henderson fizzes it into him, I think, and he's a decent, he's relatively close to goal, and a slightly better touch turn shot. You never know, Paul, and that's the difference. That's the difference between being Bobby Firmino and Gini Wijnaldum, and that, I mean that with the utmost respect to the work that Wijnaldum has to do. That is the difference. That's why the lads who play up front tend to be the best lads. And we get to talk about other positions rightly, but you got to see it every now and again there that it's really hard to be number 9. It's really hard to be number 9 at the elite level of football, and Wijnaldum found that out. Whilst again, I'll say again, still doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's another one where there's so much in it. I love thinking in things like this. I love thinking about when decisions are made in any part of life, the meeting that went on, and how it actually came about. And I can just picture all the lads sitting around and Klopp saying to them, "So Bobby's out," and all the number 9s are going, "Oh, I wonder which of us he'll pick." So Gini's playing up front. It's like Origi and Sturridge going, well, that's us. Sturridge phoned his agent going, I'm definitely leaving then. I'm like, yeah, definitely you've gone now, mate. And I mean, I think it worked okay, didn't it? All the stuff you're saying, he's an intelligent footballer. There was the first 10 minutes, you sort of look at it thinking, this is incredible. We were laughing in the pub because when they put the graphic up, everyone's trying to figure out the team. And BT Sport put up Gini as in the left of the front 3. And we were all taking the piss out of that, whoever the poor fella or girl is who did the graphic, saying, well, I tell you what, lads, it's definitely not that. We don't know what it is, but it's definitely your Gini up front. And then it turned out the only thing he got wrong was he was in the middle, not on the left, which was incredible.
I said the same thing in a WhatsApp group. I said, well, don't worry, lads, he's definitely not playing left wing. And I was like, well, I was kind of right.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's the few things in it. There is something going back to last summer, actually, which it still does annoy me, and it's difficult to say this because this is an incredible season. We can't get away from this. That's the caveat before I say this next thing, which is maybe insane, is that you've left yourself in a position where you're having to play a centre midfielder as your number 9 away at the Nou Camp. That's insane. You knew what you were dealing with before the season started. We talked about this. Going right back to the summer, we wanted one more up there. We didn't get it. We've talked about this in the past, about 13-14. Who knows what the unintended consequences would have been of getting that one other. Maybe we wouldn't have got this many points. Maybe we wouldn't have got to the semis. But I think it's disappointing to see that when you're in that position, watch your move. I think
on it, Paul, Origi plays there relatively recently and it doesn't go off for him away at Porto. Yeah. So that's in his mind, so he doesn't want to do that. I think Sturridge does okay-ish against Huddersfield, but okay-ish against Huddersfield's not going to cut the mustard as a dress rehearsal for playing there against Barcelona. You can still sort of see how he ends up concluding what he concludes. The manager wouldn't necessarily go for Wijnaldum himself, but as I say before, he does all right there. But I do wonder again about the game in Klopp's head before the match might have been a Barcelona that's in a bit more control, a Barcelona who are a bit more on top. I wonder if again 15-20 in he's thinking, wish I picked another forward in the front 3 because actually, yes, he's doing a decent job on Busquets, but Busquets is still important in this game. But the point is that it's end to end and we're going to have chances here. And I do wonder if there's somewhere in his mind there where he is a bit like, I didn't quite envisage that. Ultimately, I don't think so I've been talking a lot here and I'm meant to be hosting. I don't think he quite envisaged that we'd be better than them, or that they'd pay us the amount of respect they did. And I think that's maybe, and I'm not saying that's he's got it wrong thing, because I don't think he has. I think the conclusions he's drawn are perfectly reasonable. And then what's happened is Liverpool have got on the pitch and they've arguably been better than Barcelona.
Yeah, I think broadly speaking, I agree with all of that. The other side from Klopp's viewpoint is, again, going back to the Gomez and Trent thing, he might be saying, yeah, but lads, if Mane takes his chance, if Mane gets a pen at 0-0, we're talking about different things. You saw him after the game saying, almost shrugging his shoulders to the BT interview, going, I'm not sure, like, we could have played any better, actually. We created 5. For me, I don't know what the stats say about clear cut and all the rest of it in XG, but for me, just with my own eyes watching a football match, 5 really, really good chances away at the new camp. You can't really ask for much more than that. We've talked in the past about Pep Guardiola talking about this, that his job is to get you to a certain point on the pitch, the edge of the box, and after that, it's up to you. And if you're Klopp, you're saying, well, look, lads, you take one of those chances, 2 of those chances, it's a completely different game. And now we're not talking about me making a mistake playing Genie there at all. I think my only criticism probably was there were spells in the game, early second half, as you're talking, where we're on top, and maybe that was the time to say, okay, throw Origi on the left and get Mane down the middle, or Salah down the middle, and pull Genie now, and just sort of, whilst we've got them under pressure, go and take advantage.
Yeah, I like that, because also at that point they were constantly scrabbling around to find their solution. So if they're basically sitting on the bench saying, okay, what are we going to do to counter what's going wrong in the game? They make a change, and then literally as they're making that change, we're changing it again. Those kind of things can buy you an extra 5 to 10 minutes in the game that can really take advantage of. When it comes to the chances, like, I can honestly say I've never moved as quickly as Sadio Mane moves, but I have tried to hit a ball that's in front of me, and he's overstriding, you can see it, and it's just, if he'd have maybe just taken one small step to be able to get a proper swing at it, he's not having to kind of lean a little bit. The one chance, I mean, obviously Salah hits the post, we all see, most of the time Salah will be able to put those away. Milner's second chance, the one where Genie does it over, and it's just such a beautifully crafted move. I so wish that had gone in. If he could have just gone with it with his left, maybe just tried to put it into the bottom corner. And then at that point, I believe it was still only 1-0.
Yeah.
So that would have been 1-1 and an extremely different game. So yeah, chances clinical.
Chances indeed. We'll talk in the preview of the game next week. I don't think this one's finished for Liverpool. I think there is a journey here where everyone has to be pretty relaxed about the idea of score the first goal in the game. And any time you score the first goal in the game, reasonably there will be time for 2 more, and then it'll be very different. And I wouldn't really want to be given the shared experience of Barcelona in their dressing room. Another thing to point out on that quickly is how gutted Messi is that Dembele doesn't make it 4. Leo Messi knows a lot about football, and he would have liked that 4th goal. Thank you very much to Paul. Thank you very much to Mo. Liverpool will go on fighting until the bitter ends. Newcastle to come next.